Now that you've found UBN Radio and discovered our quality talk shows, it's time to spread the word to friends, family, and the universe. 24 hours of music and talk. Radio without limits. That's why people keep coming back for more. That's ubnradio.com.
Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, love, laugh, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Fay on ubnradio.com.
And welcome. My name is Dr. Marissa, the new Asian Dr. Ruth, and you're listening to my weekly talk radio show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa every Tuesday at naturally high noon here at the Sunset Gower Studios with Universal Broadcasting Network, ubnradio.com, Channel 1. Or, now that I'm newly syndicated on NBC News Radio, KCAA AM 1050 Loma Linda. And you can also call there if you can't actually get it on your car dial. But today is Tuesday, so we are live, and I have a beautiful guest co-host today. But before we get to her, I want to thank my cute station manager, Tony Sweet, my sensational sound engineer and assistant producer, Jarvis Essex, and Paul, Mia, and Carlos on my Thursday show. And for those of you who are tuning into this show for the first time, this is a show about hope. So there's no gossip, no scandal, and no K-words, no Kardashian talk at all. Instead, I encourage you to put on a life jacket with a positive silver lining so that you can enjoy life with as much hope and happiness as possible. So there's no CNN, constantly negative news. In fact, I balance out what you hear in the news, whether it's the impending whatever natural disaster that's about to come, if it's about bad things that people do to other people, and the worst possible things that human beings can do. What I'm trying to do with this show is bring out the positive side. And so instead of saying, what's wrong with people? As you turn on the news, you don't turn on the news, you turn on this show and you think about what is good and right with people. And it is the last Tuesday of the month. So guess what we're talking about? Here's the hint. Marvin Gaye. Yes, it's time for my newest series. Actually, it's not new anymore. Sexual Healing with Dr. Marissa, the Asian Dr. Ruth. And because one of the areas that can make you tremendously happy or tremendously unhappy is, yes, you guessed it, sex and romance or the lack thereof. So if you've missed any of my sizzling hot sex shows, booty calls, orgasms, any of those things that I talk about in this series, please do tune in to my YouTube channel, which is today at over 17,000, whoop, whoop, up from 300 last year. So it's just a little bit of a jump. Or my iTunes or my website at forbalance.org. Happy Halloween to everybody. You can notice I have my paraphernalia on today. I love Halloween, tricking or treating and getting dressed up as someone who you're not. So please be safe though. And if you're kids, don't take the bites of the apple. Today, what are we talking about? Today, instead of talking about all of that negative news, we are going to talk about romance. I'm balancing out actually all of the sex talks that we've had where I've really focused on orgasms and vulvas and vaginas. And today we're actually going to talk about the other side of romance, the other side of sex, which is romance, love, commitment, intimacy. And I brought a wonderful new friend. Actually, I met her. We both teach at the ELA, the Emerging Leadership Academy, and that's where I brought her. That's where I met her, and find out that she's a holistic love coach. So without further ado, please welcome to my studio, holistic love coach, Collette G. Hi. I'm so glad that you are here.
Thank you for having me, Dr.
Absolutely. And I wanted to talk about, because you are a coach and you do a little bit different kind of love coaching. You're not necessarily getting down and dirty with people. You coach people on how to be better intimate partners,
Yes.
right? Romance and
Right.
how to have a good relationship.
Correct.
And we're definitely going to get down to my opportunities, not problems, with relationships. But I wanted to start by that whole thing around I love you. What do men and women, and are they the same and different when they say I love you? So here's the BS, or the belief system that I hear the most about the terms I love you. That men say I love you as a lubricant to getting a woman in bed. It's because it's something the woman wants to hear. Whereas women, on the other hand, and this is not all men, and when I say men and when I say women, everybody knows, I hope you know, I've said this before, we're not talking about we're not talking about a stereotype, but we are talking about a group difference. I am not generalizing, but I am talking about most men. There are group differences between men and women. We cannot say that we're all alike. We do think differently. We do want different things, and it's okay. We get into trouble when we say whatever the man wants is more important than what the woman wants, or what the woman wants is more. So I'm not talking about stereotyping. I am talking about group differences and trying to understand the differences so we can come to the middle, or come to that balance, or that center. So there's my caveat. So women, on the other hand, say I love you, most women, myself included, when I feel like there's something special, and it is, let's not go to me, the BS, or the belief system first, around I love you from a woman, and movies have played on this. It's like, oh my gosh, it means she wants to get married, or this is it, and we're going down the aisle, and there's the end of the freedom and the commitments. This is I love you means gotcha. Well, that was supposed to be a fishing hook, not a whip. But that's most women. That's what I've heard.
Right.
So comment on that for me.
Well, although many of us believe in love, it's rare that we can agree on what love actually is.
Good point.
Some people define love subjectively, some define love objectively. I think that it's important that when it comes to defining love, that we just find the right words that works for us.
Okay.
And that the individual that we're conveying that to, that they understand what we mean when we say, I love you.
Okay. So everybody's definition of I love you is different.
It's different.
Okay. So then what do you say?
Well, if it were me, or we're going back to the BS factor, then I love you. What do you mean when you say that you love me? What does that mean to you? Because it's going to mean something different. So some people, we have all these different adjectives.
So let me go back. I work
love.
best in scenarios.
Okay.
So you're on a first, let's say you've been dating a guy.
Yes.
Okay. And you haven't had sex.
Okay.
Okay. And you get along, and he's taken you out for 3 requisite dinners and paid and pulled the check and given you the goodnight kiss. Okay. And or even got to second base or third base, and you've made out, and then he says I love you. Okay. You would stop all that and say, okay, what do you mean by I love you?
Absolutely.
You would. Okay.
Yes.
So you would say, what does that mean?
I would say, well, I appreciate that. What do you mean when you say that you love me?
Isn't that a mood killer?
It's a mood killer to make an assumption that his love means the same thing as my love. Because let's go back to your point. His love may mean, I love you, can we go to bed now? And if I reciprocate that with I love you, my love is we're in a relationship now, and we both may be speaking a different language. So I'd rather kill the mood right here, right now, than go down the line.
Good point.
Making an assumption that his love means the same thing as my love.
Okay. So then your it sounds like your premise is you don't go to bed until, or you don't do that until you want that committed relationship.
Sex and going to bed are different things.
Okay.
Sex and I love you are not the same. Sex, we just said, could be I love you because I'm really attracted to you and I'm interested in sleeping with you tonight, and I love the idea of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sex could mean I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Sex, I mean,
Love. Was that a Freudian slip?
Yes. So love doesn't mean the same thing.
Okay. So then let's rewind for a second. Is it true in our society, most of the time, that when a man says "I love you," it really is that lube that I'm talking about? His mind is, I want sex from you. In your experience,
Women want sex just as much as men do.
Okay.
So I would have to disagree and say that if a man says he loves you, he loves you. It's just understanding what his love means.
Okay, so we're blowing up all kinds of BS belief systems here,
Yeah.
and I'm glad.
Yeah.
So we are shifting,
Yes.
right? So if I track the history of sex and romance, okay. So if I go to how many, let's say 3 generations back, okay, it was very much, you don't have premarital sex. You don't have sex until you get married, and sex is pretty much for procreative purposes. Three generations ago, let's just say 3 generations ago.
Okay.
And then we had a sexual revolution around the 60s, right? And then it was like free love.
Yeah.
Right? So have sex with as many people and for no committed reason as possible, right?
Okay.
And then we had so that term premarital sex has almost gone away. It's like, what's that?
Right.
So it's fewer and far between that actually believe that you should wait till you get married.
I think when it comes to love, sex, and relationships, what works for you works for you. Me, I prefer to be in a committed relationship or know that my relationship is with someone that I'm only sleeping with that person and they're only sleeping with me. But there are individuals that don't need that.
Right.
That's not what they need. Maybe they have a busy lifestyle or a busy schedule. And that's not that important for them. So I think the best thing when it comes to sex, love, and relationships is to communicate what your needs are and what you mean when you say, I'd like to have sex with you. Okay, if we're going to have sex, does that mean we're only sleeping together? Or I love you. What do you mean when you say that you love me? Does that mean that you love me because you're interested in seeing where this relationship is going or being committed to one another?
Right. And then if I were a guy,
Yeah.
I would be like, why is this so complicated?
Well,
Why does this have to be so? I just want to be with you. I just want to
So then
hold
do that
you tonight. I just want
do
to
that. Why are we so? I mean, first of all, when it comes to relationships, we have to talk. I mean, the dialogue is essential because it's communication that gets our needs met, right?
Yes, but I do believe that it's much easier for women to communicate than it is for men. So I'm actually siding with the guys for a change. So to like I say to my niece, I say, okay, because she says, I don't know if I should date more than one guy. I don't know, and this is something that I've talked about on the show before. Most women are much less able to sleep with multiple partners at the same time. There's something inside that I've met so many women who say that. And so many women that actually say, gosh, I wish I could, because it seems like men can do that and not have a problem with it.
No, that's not right.
Okay.
Because men are just like women. There are men and women that are just the same. There are men and women that can go out there and sleep with whomever they want, and women that can do this, men and women that can do the same thing. I have not been in any relationships with any man that wants to sleep with me and multiple partners. It's just me.
Yeah, well, look at you. You're gorgeous.
But I also put that out there. That's what I'm attracting into my life, in people that are interested, men that are interested in a committed relationship. So I'm putting that out there. I'm a committed kind of girl.
Right.
So I don't pick up those guys that are looking for one night stand women.
Right.
It's not like they don't exist. I just don't pay attention to that.
Well, this is where I probably should. I don't know if we can get a mic on my assistant producer because he's a guy and he's a guy's guy, and he's looking at me. You didn't warn me,
right?
But so is it possible that in the past, because I've had guests, I had a guest on here, David Beck. He was a sex ed teacher. He's also a science teacher, but he did a side thing, and he was my guest, and he wrote a book, What Kids Ask. And so teenage boys, is it part of their innate wiring?
Biology?
Wiring, yeah. The hereditary, genetic to want sex all the time, and that's what's on their mind. And so what you're saying, that men really aren't like that, and they don't want multiple partners, is that something that has shifted with society? Has it shifted with genetics? Has it shifted with, or is it education? Because
I can remember being a kid and being just as horny as boys were. I mean, boys and girls want sex the same. We're curious about it when we're young. We all want that, that first kiss. What we don't do is, as girls, is go out there and experiment with it, maybe because the concept of getting pregnant is ingrained in us, whereas it's not necessarily with boys. Maybe men are more inclined to have what we consider frivolous sexual encounters because they can't get pregnant.
Interesting. If you just tuned in, this very titillating conversation about sex is because we're supposed to be talking about sex. It's the last week of the month, and you're listening to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, Sexual Healing with Dr. Marissa series, and I have a great, she's toe in toe with me here, Collette G, holistic love coach, and we're talking about the gender differences between men and women when it comes to sex. And you brought up something really, really, is it really true that sex is just as important to women or girls, and we want to have, because you just triggered something. I had a discussion with some of my 17-year-olds friends, breakfast, and because I have the show and because I have the series, they feel comfortable in talking about it. And I asked them, is it true that it's just the boys that want to have sex? When do you have, actually, I didn't ask them that. I said, when do you think a guy and a girl should have sex for the first time? And my daughter has gone on this show and said it shouldn't be during teenage years because we're not ready, and guys aren't ready emotionally. And yet, one of her friends said, actually, I want it as much as the guy, but I don't want, but she didn't say anything about pregnancy, and she didn't say anything about sexual transmitted disease. She did say that she doesn't want to be thought of as a loose, or get the reputation of being a loose woman or girl.
And let's say, where does she get that from? Let's go back to, I'm an active volunteer for Peace Over Violence, which is a nonprofit organization that creates healthy families, communities free from sexual, domestic, and interpersonal assault and abuse.
Okay.
The media plays a role in her perception about her own sexuality, okay? Why are all of the terminologies and words that we use to describe boys so different than what we define girls as? If a guy is young man is going out there and he's,
Sowing his seeds.
sowing his seeds, hooking up, then he's the man. But if a female does it, then she's loose or a slut.
Right, right.
So that's where she gets her perception about her own sexuality.
Okay.
So let's remove the media and the misogynism and all the isms that make us perceive who it is that society tells us that we are. And you would have two biological, teenage beings feeling the same things that you're supposed to feel at that age.
Right, right. So that is, I think religion has done a real number.
Religion and
morality, the whole thing around morality. Now, for any of you who are just going to start screaming here in a second going, oh my gosh, she's gone over the edge and she's now saying that it's okay anytime with anybody and at whatever age, and it's good to do sexual exploration at any time, and that's not what we're talking about. Okay, there's balance, but certainly where we are now, when we have young women feeling shameful in exploring their bodies, shameful in wanting to achieve orgasms on their own, shameful for wanting to enjoy sex before marriage as part of intimacy.
right.
That's why we're talking about this, because there's no safe place to talk about, sex is a God-given, right? If we want to bring in the G word, and it is part of who we are, and it is an important part of how we express ourselves, right? And it's part of how we express our love.
Exactly.
Right? So why can't we adopt and make it okay to enjoy sex?
Right.
Which is why I do this.
Right.
So I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. So it becomes an educational
Yes.
piece, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
pleasure education, which is something I keep threatening to. In fact, basically that's what this show is once a month.
Right.
But so young women, what would you say to them?
I would say that it's important to communicate with, let's go back, teenage years. Oh, if I were talking to a teenage girl, I would say it's important to talk about sex with your parents, with a sex educator, and turn the television set off and don't listen to the media about your own sexuality. There are that nothing's wrong with them, that everything that they're experiencing is perfectly normal for a teenage girl. Her hormones are probably raging more so than boys are at the age that she's in. But it's important not to feel ashamed about your body, about your sexuality, and find someone that you can trust and that you can talk to. That's what I would expect.
Great. So so it isn't true then, by extrapolation, that the only reason why we would say I love you is to make it down the aisle.
No.
So I can say I love you as an expression of, yeah, I want to be with you.
Yes, I mean, I love you. I love you.
Oh, I love you too.
And so, and what I mean when I say I love you is you're a wonderful woman, beautiful, spiritual, sensual, intelligent, creative, divine being. I love you. I love who you are. And do I want to get married to you? No.
That would be difficult.
Right. Well, nowadays, and it'd be difficult because you and I are not interested in, well, I'm not.
I'm not. We're having a moment. Jarvis, quit laughing.
Well, I don't want to make assumptions.
If you just tuned in, we're taking a moment here. Maybe we should go to break early. No. My name's Dr. Marissa. My co-host guest today for Sexual Healing with Dr. Marissa is Collette G. And we're talking about why we would say I love you and what it means for men and women, and how maybe in the past I love you meant those two very different things. But things have changed. Times have changed. We are, thank God, beginning to be, and again, we're not flashing sex, but we're making sex an important piece of love where it should be. And you're absolutely right. I think that, even here's another BS, right? And I mentioned it earlier. So the guy has to take the girl out and pick up the check for a requisite 3 dates before trying anything. And then if we're going to try something, really the pleasure is the man's, and the girl just puts up with it, or the woman just puts up with it until it's over. And then the cuddling is what's really important to the woman. I mean, all of that I know we laugh, but that was another generation. That was the BS. That was the belief system from another generation.
But where was that belief system? Where did it come from? I mean, not everyone subscribed to that belief system, but it's a stereotype that perpetuates.
But many did.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we're resetting. We're not even resetting the system, because I don't think there was, I don't want to go in judgment.
No,
so I don't want to say there's
wrong with
nothing
that.
wrong, but it had consequences, right? It was a belief system that had consequences. And the consequences are that many women don't like sex. I mean, that's one of the consequences. Okay, I know you're not one of them, okay? And I'm trying not to be one of them, but I was one of them. I mean,
what do you mean when you say many women don't like sex, or that you don't like sex?
Yeah,
what do you mean?
So I mean that because I did adopt some of those BS belief systems, I really, in the back of my head, thought, sex is, the whole
is dirty,
sex is
bad.
dirty, sex is, it's really a means to cuddling. So the guy, that's what's really, and it was most important for me to please the guy, and then my pleasure came from the afterglow. My pleasure came from being held and the afterwards.
Right.
But what I'm discovering, and why I'm doing this as well, it's just as much for me, is that it can be pleasurable. And as crazy as that sounds, and as crazy, you say I look sexual or sensual, and men find me attractive. Yeah. I still also am having a learning curve in seeing myself that way, in actually participating in that joyride, and not being the one who is in that old belief system. It's very difficult, though, because I still have hang-ups around, I want the lights off, or I don't feel attractive down there, or I don't, I'm self-conscious about my body, or it's more important for the guy to be pleasured before me, not that I'm an equal partner in sex.
Right.
And
I mean, we have to find, I wrote an article on Huffington Post about this. Let's talk about sex with the right words, because what you brought up is a valid point. We use these different words to describe sex. Sex is dirty, sex is bad, and society and some of our views and some of these old stereotypes and beliefs have us believing that this is what sex means. Oh, sex means someone just wants to use me. But if we found the right words to describe sex differently, beautiful, loving, togetherness,
intimate,
bonding, intimate, romance, using the right words to describe sex, to talk about sex, maybe not even using the word sex. How about, I would love to be intimate with you, or romantic with you, or I really love spending time with you, or I like feeling what I feel when I'm with you. Using those types of words might be better.
Right. And I just got the signal. We're going to take a quick break to thank the sponsors of today's show, and we will be right back. You're listening to Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa. We'll be back in 2 and 2.
How do you prepare a young teen for the sexual culture they're growing up in today? Science teacher Dave Beck's hilarious and harrowing book, They Asked You What?, does just that. It gives the student, their parents, and teachers the knowledge and tools to deal with the reality of today's overwhelmingly sexual American culture. And it's a great, fun, thoughtful read. Read it yourself. Give it to your teen and/or their teachers. Available for Kindle download and softcover purchase at Amazon.com.
Do you want more love in your life? Do you wonder why love seems to be so complicated in your life? Do you want to find love that has been eluding you? Then call holistic love coach Collette G, a certified holistic coach and author who understands that life may be challenging, but doesn't think love and relationships have to be. Visit Collette G at findinghappily.com. That's findinghappily.com to attract more love and rethink relationships.
And we're back. Welcome to Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa. And we are in our sex talk, positive sex talk with my delightful co-host, beautiful. And I'm not complimenting her that way, if you're wondering. Collette G. She's a holistic love coach, and she works with many individuals. She's internationally renowned. You're coming up with a book. Tell me about the book.
Yes, I am releasing a book called Finding Happily Ever After Without Pretending. It is a dating and relationship satire that addresses the stereotypes and the Walt Disney facades and the gurus on the market that tell women all of these ridiculously insane, crazy things that they need to do in order to meet and marry the man of their dreams. And if we follow these instructions, or we try to be the model for Disney, the princess in Disney, that is, then when can we stop pretending and just be ourselves?
So I'm not a princess.
Well, we are a princess,
okay,
but just not the princess that maybe knows how to sew, cook, and sing like an angel. I mean, I'm a different type of princess. You're a different type of princess.
Yes, definitely. So we've been busting BS, belief systems, and just to wrap up the last one, I heard that one of the reasons we have so much difficulty keeping relationships together, and I can remember, a decade ago, it was 1 and 2, and in divorce, and I'm happily divorced, by the way, so I'm not judging at all. And then it's now coming towards two out of 3, which is pretty significant. So one of the belief systems that has been attributed to that statistic is that most men are looking for and are wired for freedom. And most women, not all women, but most women are wired for security. And by the very playing out of that, okay, so I want freedom. So freedom means I'm going to find as many as I can to have that delightful connection with, and I don't want to be pinned down. So all of those BS, the belief systems that come with the ball and chain and the whatever, all the rest
all
of them.
Stereotypes.
Yes. And then for women, that the desire is for security. And so they want to say the I love you to the one and end the hunt, so to speak.
It sounds very primitive, caveman talk right here.
Right.
Well, I have to go out there and sow my seed. The gene is talking. I need to procreate and spread, bear fruit across the earth.
Right.
The woman is, dropping a baby in the field, but has to stay nearby the baby because she doesn't want to get devoured by a saber-toothed tiger. So that's what I'm hearing, though. We're not as primitive anymore. I don't know if we were ever like that.
Well, I mean,
I think we had to be like that because
we carry the baby.
We carry the children.
Baby. Yeah. So that you have to give them that.
We have to give that.
You have to give them that.
But the emotional context today, since we've moved away from the saber-toothed tiger,
right,
I disagree. I think that men and women both experience love. Most
we
of my
can
clients are men.
Uh-huh.
Most of them are
Well,
men.
I'm not surprised.
Crying about why they can't find love, why someone left them, broke their hearts. They're not women.
Right. So okay. So then this is another reset.
Yeah.
So because I absolutely think that is that preconceived or that pre-wiring or the genetic theory is keeping us in the dark ages.
Yeah.
And
it's our internal dialogue. That's, and it's
Disney.
Language and Disney and media.
So Caveman plus Disney tells me that there's one Prince Charming that I'm supposed to stay with them till death does us part, and it's as we both shall live, as long as we both shall live.
And I would say Prince Charming is just a myth. No one is coming to save you. You have to save yourself.
So what happens, the consequence of adopting Caveman plus Disney is if you have been left by what you think is the love of your life, or if you've been cheated on by what you think is the only one, or let's say you did marry the love of your life and he passed on, then you cannot have that kind of love again. And that's the BS that I'd like to bust, because for me, and when I coach people, not as well as you in this area, because I'm definitely a beginner in relationships, I try to frame it as it's just a chapter. And like Don Miguel Ruiz, who was also on my show, will say in his book Mastery of Love, which is one of my textbooks, is there are so many people who you can love, and there are so many people that can love you. So this limiting belief has got to go. So if you've had a relationship and it ended like 10, 15, 20 years ago, and you're still bereft because you were left by the love, it's like, you can choose to believe that, but man, you're missing out. There's so many people who can love you.
Are like a bus route. The bus driver has his route every single day. He's going from A to B. People get on and off his bus all day long. He's not pissed off at anybody that's getting off the bus. He just knows where he has to go every day.
Beautiful.
Some people ride all the way to the end of that route. Some people get off. That is relationships.
Good. Yeah, mine's a book. I have a book of romance, and I have chapters. They're not bad chapters. Some are short, some are long. And it's exciting just to read what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. And many women have the urge to go to the end. And then when we jump to the end and we attend what I call Make MSU University, Make Shiitake Up University, and we try to go to the end, that's when we get ourselves in trouble, when we're naming the grandchildren. Just enjoy
the route.
Just enjoy the story. Just enjoy the book. Okay, so we're in the last segment of our show, and I have to use my guest because that's one of the reasons why they're on here. You're a love coach.
Yes.
I just ended another chapter with a wonderful man. But as I use the formula, if things are not 80% good, then it's time to release them to someone who will love them the way they are, because you can't change them, and I can't. And for me to be able to find someone who loves me 88% of the time, that's my next chapter, and that's so I have to finish this chapter, which I did last weekend. And my niece, when I was staying with her in San Francisco, I had a board meeting and I stayed with her a little. Hi, Christina. I came in, told her what happened, and she said, Auntie Marissa, you are so beautiful and gorgeous. That's why she's my favorite niece. And you really need to be with someone who finds you that way and will act in a way. And the guy used to. I'm not saying that he didn't. He's a wonderful guy, but it's just not the right timing right now. So she put an app on my phone. And I'm trying to get off Candy Crush. This is kind of like a cross between speed dating, Plenty of Fish, and Match on steroids. And I don't have a lot of time. Time is my most precious commodity. I have like 8 jobs. So she put it on, and I was showing my assistant producer, and boy, did I get a reaction from my co-host. So we were talking about it, and Jarvis is like, save this for the show because it's worth talking about. Online dating, because to me, I can't do online dating actually because I never have the time. But this app, which used to be a hookup app, I will admit
Still
that it
is.
used to be a hookup app. It started, I guess, with another something called Grindr or something that was more of a hookup app. But it, for me, okay, are you catching the expression? So for me, and I will tell you why this is important for me and why it's fun for me, and I've only been on it a week, is because the app allows me, using my broken picker that's getting better, to very quickly sift through men, and I make sure I say, I'm not interested in a hookup. I'm not interested in a meaningless hookup, nor a meaningful hookup. I am looking for someone who can, write the next chapter in my book of romance. And so what do I know that I want? I know I'm very attracted to success. I want to admire the suit off of a guy. Success is my number one thing. And then after that, it is, similar interests, and that they aren't into hookups. They are also looking for a partner to explore this thing called life and juice it, and spiritually minded. And so I put that down. And so very quickly I'm allowed to sift through. And then if there's a match, it just provides the platform for another conversation. Okay, so then we start talking about, the similar interests, and then we'll meet for a coffee to see if they pass the chemistry test. It's exactly the same process if I were to go to bars. I don't go to bars. I can't date my clients because of what I do, and I have a spiritual community that I have not met someone who I absolutely click with. So this to me is a process that fits into my very, very, very busy life.
Online dating. First off, Tinder sounds dangerous. I mean, that's a platform for pedophiles, rapists, you name it. And I'm not calling everybody on Tinder a pedophile or a rapist or a misogynistic pig or anything like that. But it's like a cesspool where that kind of thing can brew in that kind of platform. And I say this because the first time I heard about Tinder, I was having lunch with a young lady at the Culver Hotel. Mm-hmm. And there were these gentlemen there, and she wanted to talk to them. And so they sat down with us, and they had their smartphones open, mm-hmm. and they mentioned Tinder. Mm-hmm. And I said, what is Tinder? Right. And they proceeded to explain how one of them was one of the creators or something of Tinder, or worked on the creation of it. Mm-hmm. And they proceeded to explain like what this app was. And they started flowing through these women, okay? Mm-hmm. Like they were just packages of meat, criticizing them for not being what they consider perfect enough, slutty enough, who might hook up and who might not, who's hot and bothered, what times the best times were to hit people up, and how you can tell depending on what time of day they respond, mm-hmm. what you can get out of them. And these weren't 20-something-year-old men, 30-something-year-old men, not even 40-something-year-old men. These were 50-something-year-old men talking that way. And my thing is, if online dating, you said, I don't have time for online dating, mm-hmm. then you don't have time for a relationship, because looking for and getting into a relationship is timing. And I wouldn't say, no, you can't do it in the profession that you're in, because, you're not going to date your clients. Right. Yes, you could in the spiritual arena, but also I meet people, and I met someone doing something that I'm passionate about doing.
And I do that too. I race sailboats, and I have friends there.
So that's where you.
But I have not met anyone there that I would want to date.
Then you come out of your circle, and I would love to work with you on this because I'm passionate. I know that this is just, we don't always see our own crippling blocks. Like yesterday, you and I were talking, and I was rambling on about something, and I couldn't even see myself, and you got me on point. Same thing. You can't see your own block there, but
Yeah.
Online dating, no way.
Okay, so that's your opinion based on these two guys.
Not just them.
Okay, not just them.
Yeah.
But I'll raise you
Go for it.
on women that I know who have met online and on Tinder, men who they are dating who are professional, who are gentlemen, who it's just.
They don't call it a dating site for no reason.
But the dating site is. But dating sites are ways that in this very fast-paced, very busy world that we are now, and it's taking advantage of the ability to expand beyond who your friends are recommending for you or what your interests are. I agree that you can go to you absolutely. I tell my clients all the time, what do you like to do? Go there and do what you like to do, and you'll probably meet someone there.
Absolutely.
So I'm not saying that isn't, but I don't.
Even
no
Facebook
problems.
is a better place to
Heck
meet.
no.
I'm gonna say this because at least you know the people
But you can
within
know
your
the
network.
people.
Tinder, you don't
But
know
you know
their
your Facebook matches on here. You get to see who's a mutual
you
friend
do
on
get to
Facebook.
see that.
Yeah.
But just Tinder, online dating I'm gonna name out Match.com, Plenty of Fish, Tinder. These are like booty call central date hookup spots.
And I will give you that it can be, but it doesn't have to be.
No, if someone's being real, I have clients that I help them create an amazing online dating profile, and the reason why I help them with this is so that they can truly attract who it is they say they want. Like, you read your profile, it sounds great. The possibilities, the probability of you meeting someone that matches who you're looking for is probably there. But online dating is just like no.
And for me to blanket cut off a stream, because I'm also one of those people that are sad when I hear women say, I'm too old to have sex, or I'm too old for a relationship, or I've already had a relationship, because romance is one of the gifts of life, just like sex is. Romance is, you cannot feel the way you do when you've matched someone and now you're getting to know them. That's a feeling you cannot get with a friend. You cannot get that from a family member.
Right.
You can only get that from the book of romance.
Right.
So I absolutely, and so I'm not defending it. And I give you that, there are people that are on there looking. As soon as I get a guy that says, hey, sexy, what are you doing today? I go, unmatch. And that's so easy.
It is so
easy.
just
But
so gross.
anyway, so we're not going to agree on that one.
Yeah.
But
eHarmony.
But it's so time consuming.
Relationships are time consuming.
Yeah, but I'd rather have the time consuming part of it be when we actually have something to go on.
The energy, the flow, we both believe in the energy and the flow of putting my time in is projecting how serious I am about a relationship.
Well, and maybe
so it's creating a frequency of I am investing in a relationship.
Yeah, and maybe that's. And
Tinder's
and that's
like,
where
I don't have the time to invest in a relationship. eHarmony says, I'm taking the time to invest.
Yeah.
I'm creating this frequency that says, I'm interested in a relationship. Therefore, the probability of a relationship will come out of that. Why? Because of the energy and the flow.
Yeah, possibly. But I think for many women who want it all and who want to do it all, and the definition of what a relationship is has to shift.
Yeah.
Because if it is time consuming.
Relationships are everything.
It is. Well, no. See,
they are.
all kinds of relationships.
Everything.
I agree with you. But it is something that I grapple with. I mean, is how important. I had a guy say to me, I didn't ask him for the feedback, but he said, you really have to look at how, a guy is kind of number 8 on the list. Because your daughters are first, and then your radio show and your speaking and your TV commentator
about what
and
your
your
priorities are.
Yeah, Yeah, and that it's a fair point. And then sailing. So
Right, so are you creating the whole frequency?
It is a fair point. And but does that mean I cannot have someone to enjoy jazz with and to have romantic weekends with?
So then specify that.
Are you saying that I cannot have that if I'm not willing to go full on 170,000% on a relationship?
I would say if I were you, if I enjoy going to jazz and I want to go sailing with, then I would specify that in my profile. Just looking for somebody to do this or do that with. Because what I'm also hearing is you don't really have the time if someone's number 8 on your list to invest in that type of relationship.
If he's a match, I mean, if I met a guy who I admired immensely I just there was that joy when I saw him, and we really enjoyed stuff. Yeah, he would move like right up in the top 3.
So that guy just wasn't a priority on the list.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the truth.
So that's being truthful, because if I enjoy going to jazz, then I'm going to spend some time at a jazz place, because that's where I'm going to possibly meet someone that enjoys that. It's easy to find somebody in a relationship that is in alignment with what you do when you create this, like, okay, I love volunteering. I love my spiritual center that I go to. I love to go to the movies. I love eating dinner. So I am going to spend time in all of those arenas so that the person that I'm going to meet is going to be in alignment with that. So they're not going to have to be number like 8 on my list, because we're in sync in what our compatibility is. There's the 6 C's of relationships. What is it? Compatibility,
chemistry,
communication, commitment.
Is chemistry one of them?
No,
it's not.
No.
I'm gonna have to go back to the.
But yeah, there are 6 C's of them, and so when you set out to meet somebody, even if it's online, though I'm not in favor.
I got
of
that.
it,
I got that.
If it's online, then just make sure that the person knows extremely busy lifestyle and schedule.
Yeah,
that's honest.
Yeah,
and if they and make sure to include that.
Yeah, and that's why the last one worked so well, because he was just as busy as I was, and it worked for a while.
But it's apart now.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. There's nothing wrong with it being apart.
No.
I have absolutely no, and I'm so glad you brought that up, because people have this BS that if a relationship is over, it fails. No. That's BS.
No.
It just means that chapter is over. That's all it means. That's all it means. And so for people, and then there's the ones, they're all so promising at the beginning, and then it just falls apart around, and I almost always I go, is it between 5 and 7 months? And they go, yeah, how did you know? I said, because that's the way relationship goes. In the first 3 months, most men are like puppies, right? They're really cute and they do the best. And women too. We put our best foot forward. We put our best. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. It has to have that in order to sustain the second part, which is when realistically the frog comes out. In both of us. And we see the frog. And then the third part, you decide, is he 80% puppy and 20% frog? Then let's go forward. Wow. If he's 80% frog and 20% dog or puppy, then you close a chapter. I mean, and it's just okay.
Yeah, closing a chapter, like I said, the bus route.
Not you don't all get mad at them.
No, I don't get mad at them.
Yeah.
I just wonder if I wasn't really sure if you wanted this person to ride the bus route all the way to the end with you.
I want to be with someone when it's 80% good.
Relationships are not 50-50.
Right.
They're not 80-20. I mean, they go through this up and down. It's just a matter
overall, though. Overall.
Yeah, I think it just...
People stay in relationships when overall is 80% bad. And then
80% good, yeah.
80%. No. There are people who stay in relationships when they're 80% bad. Many women. stay in
They
relationship.
compromise for the sake of
for
the relationship.
80%, yes. And so that is what I get a little annoyed about because life is way too short to stay in that energy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good. So we'll leave on the note where we agree.
Yes.
But I'm so grateful to have you. How do people find you?
You can visit me on my website at findinghappily.com. And
That's
pretty
great.
much it.
Finding Happily. Miss Collette G. Let's
Thank
give
you.
her. Thank you so much for coming on with me.
Thank you.
And I'm not going to make any jokes about that. Okay, wrapping up today's show with a few balance bars. First, thanks to many of my listeners who complimented me on my going out music this last month. Yes, it is me singing. And yes, they are original songs. And you can download me on iTunes, both podcasts and songs now. And as with all of my Balance products, all proceeds go towards my peace work around the planet. If you want to come and see me speak and get my 5th honorable award, come to the Make It in America Conference and the Asian Heritage Awards, November 22nd to 23rd. That's when I'll be there, but it actually starts a little earlier. So please take advantage of that at the California Performing Arts Center in Escondido. Register at makeitinamerica.net. That's makeitinamerica.net. And the 41st round of the 21-day Fast from Complaining with Dr. Marissa is about to start. I forgot to put a drum roll in there. There we go. Thank you. November the 1st, we can stop the drum roll, on November the 1st, where it's for 21 days in a row, we try not to complain. And if you manage to do 21 days and you register on my website, the number 4balance.org, you will get a prize. And we are going to have a giveaway. What are you giving away to because I am called the Asian Oprah. What is the giveaway?
Right. I am giving away a complimentary consultation session valued at $150.
Wonderful, wonderful. So contact...
They can visit me at my website, findinghappily.com, or they can give me a call on my business line, 818-639-2130, and mention the Asian Oprah.
There we go. And next Tuesday, it's another Radio for Our Deaf series. So my staff interpreter will be here because I am blessed to have another extraordinary composer pianist in the studio, Paul Cardall. He was supposed to have died several times from a heart defect, but he's determined to bring to the world some of the most beautiful music that I've ever heard. I found him on Pandora, and by some strange Twilight Zone things that went on, he was supposed to be on my show, so he will be, and I don't want you to miss it. Tune in at Naturally a High Noon next Tuesday for him in studio for Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa Pay. That's P for positive, EI. Peace in and peace out. Touch keeps making me want you, so soft and yet so disturbing. The emotion it brings, my heart starts to sing a new melody. Your words are so few at times I do wonder if you feel half as much as I do. But when you look into my eyes, I see no disguise.